Sampatichana already. No doubt about Sampatichana Sunday.
I just say hello to everyone at home. We're starting now. Just a small group today. At home is actually just some Vietnamese only. Okay. Please carry on, James. Vincent mentioned some time ago about the resolve to become a Buddha, and we often talk about adhitthana as the confidence, but we also read in the text about resolving to be established in the truth, which I think is what is meant, adhitthati. So when we read about resolving to become a Buddha, are we referring to the strong confidence in the truth, adhitthana, or anything else in particular?
Be truthful to the truth only.
And also the compassion, incredible compassion to make that resolve.
I think in particular, when it's mentioned about the resolve to become a Buddha, it's the very strong confidence in the truth and the understanding of the value of truth. And this relates to adhitthana parami, satcha parami in particular.
And the level of understanding at that time for the Bodhisattva is early Vipassana stage, right? The tender stage. It cannot be after like seeing the anicca of Dhamma, of reality. So I think at that time, the other really critical factor is the compassion, because there are other wise, their level of understanding is even higher.
Not to the degree of Vipassana. Not the degree. Not.
Did you mention that there must be the early stages of Vipassana?
That's what I heard from previous recording discussion, that once it at a very high level, like Sankara, Upekkha, that already past the opportunity. I don't know.
Any of the Vipassana jnanas, because once the Vipassana jnanas are there already is the very clear understanding of the truth leading to the higher Vipassana jnanas and enlightenment. All that they can all follow in very rapid succession before enlightenment. What I've heard and
if there's clear understanding already, how can he had to develop? How could he develop more and more understanding in order to become the Buddha, the enlightenment? If it's already appeared clearly as vipassana jnana, no need to be Samma Sambuddha.
Okay. So even before the first stage, even before the Ditti Visuddhi,
What is Ditti Visuddhi?
the first stage, Namarupa Paricheda, that's Anatta Sanya at that stage.
And what about the moment of understanding little by little?
That any level of understanding.
It's already development of. It's already the development of Ditti Visuddhi. So at moments of Satipatthana, for example, it is Ditti Visuddhi, it is developing already.
Yeah. But sometimes people don't count the 10th stage as Vipassana jnana, right? The first 3 stage. So are we talking about which definition of Vipassana jnana?
Are we talking about the degree of understanding which hasn't happened yet?
Right, right.
What about now, in order to understand when it is a higher and higher degree of understanding?
Well, has to be what is there. Yeah.
And are there many degrees of Visuddhi as well?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's why just one word is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
We have to consider whether it covers other meaning too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But I also read about the condition for the bodhisattva, the determination, the resolve are so unbelievable that he could climb over the whole universe. They just try to describe how strong the resolve is.
And before becoming to be Samma Sambuddha, didn't he have any understanding of whatever is there at all?
Sure, to see the
To what
dukkha,
degree?
to the degree that clearly is dukkha.
But not vipassana jnana.
Okay.
Here we're talking about the first Vipassana jnana is Namarupa Paricheda jnana, so it cannot be even the first Vipassana jnana. Otherwise, would be enlightened already in that life.
That's right. The different degrees must be different. Intellectual understanding cannot be the moment of direct understanding. No understanding of moment when sati is there as directly. To be aware of that object with understanding. But it's so very weak. How can it become more and more greater and greater? To understand more about the Indriya and the Pala and so on. That's why before his enlightenment, Buddha studied and listened and many, many lives developing understanding. So much more than anyone else. For us, even when one has become enlightened, not the degree of Samma Sambuddha.
The level of paramis are totally different,
Yeah.
right?
Because even in that life, he could become Arahata if he wished. Arahata, become Arahata.
Right. That's why the compassion is so unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about the very great determination to cross the oceans and so on, what do you understand by determination? Because determination is not compassion. What do you understand by determination?
Well, usually when we talk about determination, it's conditioned by confidence, which is conditioned because understanding of the truth. But in this case, the determination probably also conditioned by the compassion as well.
And not just compassion.
Of course, the understanding, I mean, relative to the other area to be, he is quite different. He has that kind of determination, which is conditioned by not only the Panya, right?
All kinds of parami.
Right, right.
All paramis. But all paramis, the understanding is the main one, and compassion is not parami. Just leave John in charge of the air. Just let him. Okay. He's already saying that better just leave it. Are you cold? No, we're fine. Everything is fine. Okay. I know, but I thought he was saying take the air from this way. Jonathan sets it before the session. It's all yeah, it depends. Some models you can go from the music, and some others you have to go. It's not more
Determined to get the air conditioner, you're right.
And the reason I asked is because what we think of conventionally about determined, like you gave the example, determined to go to India, determined to listen to the discussion, it's not the aditana, it's not the meaning of the aditana or the paramis, it's just conventional idea of being determined, not panya,
Right,
which is what is referred.
Panya has to be there, yes.
Referring to the very great panya supporting by the other paramis, not like conventional idea of being determined to go somewhere or like determined to come to Thailand, not this.
And we have clear understanding of the others, metta and karuna. But there can be the moment of understanding what is there instead. Otherwise, the understanding of what is there now cannot begin at all.
It's just another reason that's appreciate and the gratitude for the Buddha, because he could have become an arahata, but he really see clearly the dukkha, the truth of dukkha, and his compassion.
But in truth, the reality right now is not known as it is yet. So how can we imagine the very great, very high kusala virtues, higher than anyone at all, greater than anyone at all? And now none of the understanding of what is there yet. That's why whenever there is the understanding of what is there, it begins to understand how great right understanding is. Otherwise, it's just thinking about someone and some kind of virtues.
When people think about, like the example you gave of Jan's determination to go to India or great metta or great, it's just thinking about a story. It's not any understanding of the reality of metta now or understanding now. So it's just dreaming and speculating, but not actually understanding the reality the determination that is meant, the panya, the great panya. So it has to come back to the understanding now. Otherwise, it's just thinking about other people all the time.
It's similar to the sense of urgency, right? It has to be panya that see the danger, not because the desire want to get there. The sense of urgency, which many people may think they should try to meditate as much as possible in this lifetime.
And in order to have right understanding of the Buddha's virtue, it has to be understanding of the truth little by little. That's what he had enlightened.
And so quickly, the idea of someone so quickly, the idea of someone having a sense of urgency or trying to understand, even when we hear that if the Buddha had wanted, he could become an arahat. But actually, in truth, there's no Buddha, no one who decides, no one who chooses to go this way or that way by conditions, by understanding, not by a self doing anything. So whatever we read or hear in a discussion or in the sutta, it's about dhammas. So without the understanding of the truth of panya now, metta now, when it appears, it's always the idea of someone's great resolve or someone's metta or someone's determination. But it's just a story, not actually the understanding.
And I think the Buddha's compassion is based on understanding, because it's after his enlightenment that he sees the extent to which beings are ensnared in the round of samsara without any prospect of release unless they hear the Dhamma. So I think it's could be said that the compassion is so much stronger after his enlightenment than at the time of resolving to become the Bodhisattva.
For example, just one word, citta, see. If we don't realize that it's so very, very subtle to be known or even to thought about its truth. When there is a moment of understanding gradually, one can see how subtle it is. And what about those who haven't heard about that word citta, or even they heard about these different ideas? But what about the passion to help anyone to think about that, to consider it, beginning to understand what is there in life as a core of life? It's now, see. And how can there be the understanding of it, not just by saying the word citta? And no matter how many times we heard about it, the moments of developing enough to understand little by little of that which is now experience and object. See, right now, you don't have to go anywhere. But the moment of considering now, that seeing is not that which is seen. No shape, no form, it's there all the time. Even there's no seeing, it's there. Beginning to think about it, not to forget it. That if there's no thought about it at all, how can it gradually be known? Like yesterday and today, any moment closer to it, little by little. So shall we talk again about what is there now, again and again, like Sampatichana, that must be right now, Sandirana and so on. No one knows. right? To think about other things. It's not moment of beginning to understand the chitta right now. Is there hidden?
What the monkey keep changing the branches, but actually the monkey keep changing as well. Right. The simile of the monkey is the cheetah, keep changing the object, but the cheetah keep changing, but so hidden in the most, right?
From one branch to another. Chitta experiences one object after another. Sometimes people have the idea there should be less thinking about concepts, but it's the nature of chitta by conditions to experience one object after another, visible object, and then the ideas about what is seen and so on. So it has to be like that, and different chitta at each moment. Alberto, is there anything you would like to bring up today? You happen to be on our screen. Anything you'd like to bring up?
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about karma condition, the last jhavana in lifetime. It's because it's not by karma condition. It is the karma conditioning, but the condition cannot be by karma condition because it's jhavana, so it's not vipaka. Is it karma conditions the last jhavana by Pakatupanisaya Pachaya? I think, but I'm not sure. I want to ask Ajahn if she can explain more about karma conditioning the last jhavana in this life.
Yes. First of all, we have to understand what karma is. Everyone knows a reality. It has its own nature. It has its own function, coordinating what are there to perform the function, right? Even right now, the chetana or karma pacaya, not the karma which can produce results, just in general, many degrees of that which is there, coordinate, no matter when and where. So now it's there each moment, even at moment of seeing, as long as there are other mental factors arising, it's that reality which coordinate the other to perform its function. Is that right? It's original, its nature, its function, it's only that. But when it arises with other realities, other citta, it performs more according to the realities which arise together with it. Because at moment of seeing, it just coordinates the cetasikas to perform that function. That's all. As vipaka just arises by karma as condition. But after that, see, even panchatavara vachana, more cetasika. So karma still have its function, when we talk by way of Cetana, not Kusala Kamma and Akusala Kamma yet. So when we talk just about that reality which coordinates, it is that we call Cetana as Kamma Pacaya. See, arises with other reality as Pacayupanna, conditioned by that Kamma. But when the other realities like Lopa is there, it conditioned Lopa too, coordinated to perform the function of attached, see, not just like at moment of seeing. No attachment arising for it to coordinate, to perform its function. That's why no matter through word or speech or thought, Cetana is there together with other Cetasikas. Its function is only coordinate the other Cetasikas to perform the function with Lopa or with Dosa, different Cetana, according to the realities like Lopa and Dosa arising with it. Condition it to coordinate in such a way to do something, to say something wholesome or unwholesome. That's why we learn about realities. All are realities. What are there in a moment, from moment to moment? Cetana arises with seeing. It's not Cetana which arises with Bodhapana. Different function. So how many Cetasikas arise with Bodhapana moment? More than 7, see. So Cetana performs function to coordinate what is there together at that moment. Different moment with Lopa, with Panya, and with other Cetasikas. But its function is Kamma, the one who coordinates. Can not be there any moment of Citta.
Yeah,
it has to be there.
Has to be there. And when we hear that a karma conditions the last jhavana in life.
How many Cetasikas are there? Cetana coordinates them to perform the function. By way of vipaka, experience the object, the unknown object. See, it works together with other Cetasikas, but it performs its function only. Even Lokuttara Citta, there is Cetana performing its function, but with other Cetasika, with a different level of Panya. For Satindriya, for Satipala, and so on, at different moments. Cetana is there. Can there not be Cetana at those moments? What will coordinate?
And there is also the function of conditioning vipaka in the future.
So
it's another function.
Yes, when there is understanding of the nature of Vedana, no doubt, no matter what it arises with, Citta, Lokuttara, or Lokiya, or seeing, or Akusala.
I think that Alberto's question is because at those moments of the kusala or akusala citas just before birth, obviously Chaitanya is there at those moments coordinating. But I think his question is why in particular say that those citas are conditioned by karma, because at every moment the Chaitanya is coordinating. And usually when we hear about citas being conditioned by karma, we are looking at vipaka citas, but here they are the javana citas. Is that the question?
Also, there's also the function of conditioning future vipaka, as well as coordinating the Dhamma arising with citta. So it's Kama Pachaya and Nanakanika Kama Pachaya. And when we explain the last moment of life in which there is a karma conditioning the last javana and then conditioning the follow the patisandhi of the next birth, we refer to karma conditioning these realities, and and these realities are conditioned by what conditions this reality? That's my question. Maybe it's not very clear, but it doesn't matter.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, please, can you speak more? Talk more.
Shall we talk about seeing right now, because it is vipaka, right?
Right.
Cetana, which conditions seeing, is not the one which arises with seeing, right?
No.
But that
Right.
cetana conditioned moment of seeing for sure to be kusala vipaka or akusala vipaka. And it also conditioned cetana which arises with the seeing as vipaka, the result of that cetana which conditions seeing to arise. Different moment, the cause and the result. Cetana, which is the cause, the kusala or akusala, and cetana, which is vipaka.
Yes.
Karma, which conditions the patisandhi, is not the cetana that arises with those last javana citas. It could be any karma from the past, like when Devadatta attacked the Buddha, can be any deed from the past that conditions the patisandhi.
And the past deed condition, the past deed condition, the vipaka conditions also the conditions the patisandhi also conditions the last javana of the previous life. By what yeah, I was trying to put together the last javana, we condition the last javana and the patisandhi citta, which are conditioned by the same karma, but not by because the javana cannot be conditioned by, it's not vipaka. So patisandhi is vipaka, so okay, it can be conditioned by the karma because it's vipaka. But the last javana is not vipaka, it's kusala or akusala. But it's conditioned, even if kusala or akusala, it is conditioned by the same karma which conditions the patisandhi, which is vipaka. I see that, but I'm not. I don't. I'm not sure about the condition, which is conditioning in the Javana, because we know Javana are conditioned by Bhaktupanisaya Pachaya, not by Nanakanika Kamapachaya, like the
Well, I've never been clear whether the past karma in relation to those 5 Javana jittas in the last Javana process before death, whether it was the jittas themselves that were conditioned by past deeds or the object that those Javana jittas take that's conditioned by past deeds. So I'm not sure what the answer is there.
Yes, it's not,
Maybe it's not stated in the text. What is the nature? Your question is the nature of that conditioning relationship. How the past deeds can condition a Javana jitta, which is either Gosala or Agosala.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Also, also Ajahn was explaining that the last moment death can happen anytime. So it depends on the last Javana in life. If it's Kusala or Akusala, it's
Kusala is by conditioned by Pakatupanisya Pachya.
Must be, yeah. That's what
Karma that brings a result, the Patisandhi. It has to have the Pakatupanisya Pachya supporting it to bring that particular result. And the object of the last Javana Chitas, it can be any object. It could be sense object or memory of sense object, deed that has been performed. So when it's said that it's the result of karma, because it's like maybe memory, a deed that is performed, that is karma. So I don't know that we say that the same karma that produces the patisandhi that conditions those last Javana jittas, because they are conditioned by Pakatu Panisya Pachya, and the object, the unknown object, like now can be any object, and it is the karma from the past that produces the following patisandhi. But I agree, it's not an easy topic.
Well, the object can also be the next realm. So that obviously is a special kind of object, because that object doesn't normally appear, which is part of the information that we need to take into account. But it would make sense, wouldn't it, for whatever is conditioned by karma in relation to that last Javana process, that would be the same karma that is conditioning the rebirth, one would assume.
So I think that's why the object is relevant, related to that karma.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, John.
Some concerning about the object is also conditioned by karma. So previous karma, or any karma you have done before.
If the object, for example, is the next destiny, then obviously it's going to be the karma that conditions the rebirth, isn't it? Same karma. Otherwise, you could get a mismatch.
Yeah, I was thinking about these details of.
And any particular reason why you would like to have an answer to this question, Alberto?
No particular reason. But anyway, apart from this particular question, it's it's hearing this not hearing the details about how death comes about and how next life follows. I think it's helpful to
Just a thought. Have you checked the CMA, the Abhidhamma Sangha, on this point?
No, I haven't. I will.
I think it's possibly mentioned in some way there from memory.
Yeah, it must be somewhere. Yes.
To remember that karma accumulates too, the chaitana accumulates. So it's not just one karma, one moment that brings the result. It's the accumulation of many, many moments of chaitana until it's of that degree to bring its result. So that's why Bhakti Upanishya Pachya always supports the karma.
Also, when Ajahn explains that it's like now, death is like now. So it I don't know. It's a bit makes you think about all the useless thinking that goes on and is not helpful for anyone or anything, because that moment there can be death at that moment. So it just helps to see the anatomness of realities, and I think it's also it's like a prompt for understanding the reality, and encourage the understanding of the truth of the present moment.
Jan is back now. So the question you were asking was about whether the karma that brings about the patisandhi conditions the last Javana Chitas, or the object was, I think that was the point.
Yeah, that's
So we'll talk again about Chetana little by little. For example, there is Chetana all the time in one's life, arising together with Chitta, and it can perform only its function, right? We call the moment of coordinating all Cetasikas which arise together to perform their function, right? No matter now, at moment of seeing, Cetasikas there, Chetana is there as well. So it's the one who works, right? While the other also has that characteristic and the function, but not to be like organizing or organize the other Cetasikas to perform the function. So it's gone, right? Even right now. And when it's not vipaka, kiriya, It is kusala and akusala, which is the cause, kamma paccaya, at moment of doing some deeds, wholesome or unwholesome, through speech or deed or mind. No doubt about it. But it can condition its result as birth moment to be born differently in different planes. And cetana, which arises at moment of birth, is also conditioned by the kamma, which is really only one to condition birth consciousness. So the cetana which arises with the birth consciousness is not the same at all. Never one be the same, just arise and fall away at all the time. That's why who knows what kamma in this life or past life or any life will produce or condition the birth consciousness after death. But there must be cetana, which is conditioned by akamma to perform its function at moment of birth, for sure. The same function all the time. So who knows what karma will produce result? It can be now, understanding the reality right now, or someone might think about other things, and that can be conditioned for next life, cetana, at moment of birth, right?
No,
So can cetana now, which has completely gone, and death comes then, can it condition moment of birth? Because it's already done. So it can, different one. Just think about how close it is, right? Or how far away it is. Because who knows what karma will condition the birth consciousness, right? And the moment before birth, who knows? Right now, seeing now is conditioned by what karma? Whether it is kaya karma or vaci karma or mano karma, who knows? That's why in Tipitaka it says that all karmas is covered up, and the result is also covered up by ignorance, no understanding of how come to be that very moment. But there must be condition, and the condition, which condition, the result has to be cetana, right? The one who works, the one who coordinates. So now, at moment of seeing the result of one karma, it can be the same result which conditioned patisanti citta, or the other karma, which is akusala or akusala, depending on moment of experiencing the pleasant object or unpleasant object by the karma in this life or previous life, who knows? So the result karma is not the karma which conditioned it. All gone. Just know how come to be this moment of seeing by a karma, but that karma is not known. Which one conditioned seeing right now, or seeing any moment, or birth at any moment. So the question is, can it be known? What karma conditions seeing right now?
no.
Or what will be the last moment in jhavanas in this life? Who knows? It's just like now. All depends on conditions. As the previous moment before death cannot be known. So how can the karma be known? How long will it condition the result, or how short it will? That's why nobody can tell at moment of seeing, hearing, is the result of the karma in this life or previous life. But there must be condition for it, which is a reality which coordinates the other's reality which arise together to perform its function. And now it's doing, working, performing such moments to see. Can there be seeing without Chetana? As result, see. And Buddha taught a lot about different aspects of Chetana. When it's kusala and akusala, through speech or deeds, or the time for it to condition the results. For example, when it's so bad, wrong, deep, it can condition birth consciousness in hell after death, instantly. All dhammas are hidden until the enlightenment of the Buddha. That's why we learn to understand his virtues little by little when there is the understanding, and more and more and more and deeper and more subtle, as long as they are conditioned to understand what is that he taught so very deeply. For example, Citta right now, see? It's just here and now, at the moment, each moment, who knows? No. That's why it cannot be taken for anyone or anything at all. What is there in life? What is seen is just color. Is that not true? So the dream about the color as different objects, different people, different country, different situation, all comes from seeing. And when it's there as nimitta, it makes known as this and that. Even right now. And when that the truth is experienced, how much respect to the one who conditioned right understanding of what is there now appearing. That's why the one who pay respect to Buddha deeply must be the Aryan, Sotapanna, Skatakami, and so on. Much more than just hearing the word about Citta and Cetasika, because it's there now. That's why each word of the Buddha's teaching just pointed to this moment. What is there? Not only this moment, but what is there? In order to understand each moment, which is so very short. Even Chetana right now, see? Vipaka, Kiriya, Kusala, Akusala, different moments performing its function. That's why we learn about each reality to understand a little more, to let go the idea of self gradually in daily life. If there's no understanding what is there now, daily life, any moment, the wrong understanding cannot be eradicated, never to arise again in samsara.
And Ajahn says that it's just like now, maybe the last moment of life, any object may be experienced just like now. It means that just like now, it's unexpected. Who knows now whether visible object will be experienced, or kindness, or thinking about this or that. So it can be any object. So even if it's the sign of future destiny, it's just the unexpected object. And when it's mentioned that the object experience is conditioned by karma, it's like now, without seeing, there cannot be the experiencing of visible object. So without past karma, that object cannot appear. So that's why it's just like now, the unexpected object, any object at all. It may be thinking about a deed performed, thinking about the kindness, the kind act yesterday. So that was kusala karma, when there was that kind act, mano karma. So the thinking about it is thinking about that karma from yesterday. So it's just like now, any object at all.
And just to add a bit to what I said earlier, having had a quick look in the meantime at the Abhidhamma Sangha translation, I think it's the object of the last javana that's determined by previous karma, not the jitta itself. And if you do a search for last javana in CMA, then you'll get a number of references that go through this in some detail, but yet doesn't say that the javana jittas themselves are conditioned by karma.
Right. Thank you.
There is
Thank you, Joseph.
internet, those moments of the last javana coordinating, and it may be a new karma. For example, if there's understanding at that moment, but when it's referred to as the object, it is the object that is said to be conditioned by karma. And that is, like I mentioned, it may be thinking about the good deed. It may be the visible object that's the result of karma. So that's why I'll just go through these functions of Chaitana, which are mentioned in the Atasalani, because I was just briefly mentioning to Ajahn beforehand. So the first one, Ayuhati Abhisankaroti, is translated in English as harmonizes, but actually nothing to do with harmonizing. So Ayuhati Abhisankaroti refers to all the karmas accumulated by the patisandhi that can bring results in that life. So the karma is from the past, but all the karmas from the past at that moment of birth that can bring results. So obviously that is referring to karmapata, when those karmas actually have brought their results. Here it's those karmas that potentially can bring results. And the next one, Pindam Karoti, refers to the function of coordinating. So this is the function of Chaitana at every moment. And then it mentions Chetati, to think. And another one is Kapeti, and another one is Pakapeti. The translations are think, stimulates, and decides. But anyway, it's the nature of Chaitana to coordinate and accumulate and to will. Maybe Chaitati is more like will, Pakapeti, to will and determine.
If there's no understanding of Chetana, can we understand those words? But it doesn't matter what word is used when there is the understanding of the truth and reality. It has its characteristic and its own function.
One reason I brought it up, Alberto, is because it relates to the discussion and also the excerpt that you transcribed of a discussion between Tambak and Ajahn on Manokarma, but some of the sections out of context can cause confusion. For example, it mentioned Manokarma cannot be in the sense door process, can only be in the mind door process. But when we're referring to the Chaitana that coordinates, here the Manokarma refers to the Chaitana that refers to sense door or mind door, kusala and akusala Chaitana, not just the mind door. But when it's referring to, when it's said it's only in the mind door process, this is the Chaitana which brings results by way of speech or deeds. Then it is only the mind door. And in the last section, there were one or two points that can be misleading when it's said that if there is no will or intention to harm, for example, then it, of course, it is not Manokarma through body door bringing any result, because, for example, one steps on an insect, no intention to harm. But when there is the intention to harm, for example, when an animal kills another animal, there's intention to harm, even though there's not a long, well thought out plan, then it can be kaya karma through kaya dwara, through the body door. But when it's a well laid plan, for example, when a trap is laid, then it's mano karma through body door, through kaya dwara. And there might be the thought of telling a lie, but one doesn't say it oneself. One says it, someone else says it. So it can be mano karma through vachi dwara. So it's very intricate, but easy to misread or misinterpret, or think that, you know, a mano karma cannot be through the sense door, but we have context exactly as to what kind of Chaitana being referred to. So sometimes, like in this particular transcript, sometimes it's one, sometimes it's another. So one has to consider the nature of Chaitana carefully and know exactly at each point what's being referred to.
Just to mention that that explanation is in the Upali Sutta and the Majjhima Nikaya. It's I remember reading it and I found it interesting because there's the Jain teacher explaining that kaya karma it's more serious karma than vachi karma, and vachi karma more serious than mano karma. And the Buddha says, explains that it's not so. It's the mano karma which is more serious than both kaya karma and vachi karma. And I think I remember the transcript. I think it fits perfectly with this sutta and the commentary of this sutta, and also the following sutta about the two ascetics which were one was I don't remember the sutta anyway. In these two sutta, it explains the let's say the the priority that Manokamma has over Kaya Kamma and Vachikamma. But then, of course, you read in the Dhammasangani that Kaya Kamma, and that's a different classification. It's a classification by not by Chetana, but by the door, not by the Kamma, but by the door of Kamma, which explains the door through which the karma is accomplished. So it can be confusing because you read Dhammasangani and then you read Sutta, and it can be confusing. But I think Ajahn explained the difference between the door of karma and the karma itself. The karma which brings results, it cannot be through the sense door, because how can it bring any results if it can only be asava through the sense door, through the kaya. And
that's why we have to read about Manokamma carefully. So in the beginning of the transcript, when it said there can be no Manokamma in the sense door, it's not referring to, actually can be Manokamma in sense door, mind door, but here it's referring to any kusala or akusala chetana when it said there is Manokamma in any doorway. But when we're referring to Kamapata, then it's referring to mind door only. And the reason the Manokamma is more serious than the Kaya Kamma or the Vachi Kamma is because there is more greater intention. For example, when laying the trap or when planning to kill for a long time, the effort is much greater than when it's an impulse killing or spur of the moment injury or spur of the moment speaking harshly, not the long, well-planned intention to cause serious harm.
I'm sorry, I'm just, I was recollecting, like you were then, Alberto, the Upali Sutta, where the Buddha talks about, because it was one of the fellows, one of those people who had wrong view, who had well-known teachers at the time. I'm not sure who it was. Might have been Pakuda. One of the, I'm not sure anyway. But the naked ascetics who believed that Kaya Kamma was by far the worst, and then Vachi Kamma. But the Buddha gave examples, quite dramatic examples, of ascetics or yogis in the past who just by thinking destroyed whole villages and caused grievous killings and hurtful things. So he was talking about the mind being much more powerful, and that really contradicted what the prevailing belief was amongst those certain types of ascetics. And Upali kept on asking the Buddha to give other examples. And Upali, not that he didn't understand and appreciate, but he was just simply gobsmacked that the Buddha was so clearly elucidating how dangerous Manokamma was in the hands of somebody who has got all this power. It really struck me, that one also. I think it's a very good example. And of course, Upali became Sotapanna shortly after that, or during that sometime. And it's a very interesting sutta on Manokamma, that it's much more grievous than physical, than Kaya or Vachi Kamma.
Still physical, because still the deed is performed through body or speech. Like if it's akusala karma, the deed still has to be performed through body or speech, but it's Manokarma because of all the planning and stronger intention, not just the impulse harming, which is kaya karma.
In reference to animal realm, an animal can kill another animal, but not so much as bringing death on that animal, purely instinctive food source. And the other comment, I don't know if this reflects understanding at the intellectual level about if individual of high development has special power. That's to my thinking, that the mind development is so great that they could actually misuse it to destroy an entire village. I should think that unthinkable. How is it that an individual of such development, is it wrong? Well, obviously wrong view, but please clarify that. Thank you.
Well, if I, or you go, Sarah, please go ahead.
So the first example of the animal just killing for food source, it's killing because it's killing kaya karma through kaya dwara, because it's not a long, well planned, but it is still killing. So it's kaya karma through the body door. The second example is manokarma, and in this case, it's manokarma through manodwara. Usually when we talk about any harming or speaking harshly or acting, it's always through the body door or the speech door. But for one who has very strong psychic power and can cause, for example, the death of an infant or through the mind, then that would be, there are examples given in the Atasalani, that's manokarma through manodwara.
So it's possible before Sotapanna that an individual has this special power or ability. Absolutely terrifying. Prior to Sotapanna, because the Sotapanna has eradicated wrong view, and this is unthinkable. I didn't know that could happen.
Yeah, I guess it does, Eve, point to how important the development of the path is, because that's the only thing that can eradicate those deep-seated levels of ignorance that condition that sort of, like, that horribleness of manokamma, that those, it was well known at the time of the Buddha that there were these yogis or ascetics who had done this, whole villages, whole devastated parts of this, destroyed jungle areas and all sorts of things where people lived. So it was well known, and the Buddha exposed the shortcomings of the particular belief at the time among one of those teachers, one of those 6 or 5 other teachers in the Buddha's time, must have been one of the 5 others who believed that, that they were the naked ascetics who believed that, that kaya kamma was much more powerful, or body kamma was much more powerful than wachi kamma, and the Buddha exposed how in many ways how ridiculous that was in view of how powerful the mind is and how incredibly destructive in the wrong hands that it can be. And as you said, you would think it would be unthinkable, but ignorance can do these things, that's, and it points to how dangerous that level of ignorance can be, which we all have, unless we're sotapanna. So when the conditions are there, and there are like Devadatta did, he must have developed he must have been a Jnana at a very high level, because could perform miracles, so-called miracles. That is patihāria. It's not necessarily miracles, but he could do things, and he influenced the king at the time, Ajatasattu, to kill his father, which ultimately did lead to the death of King Bimbisara, who was just an amazingly benign monarch who would even gave his son the realm, because he'd called his son Ajatasattu, because it literally means Ajata means unborn, Sattu is an enemy. He was given that name by the queen, who knew, and she wanted to commit and have an abortion, but the king, who was a sotapana, did not permit that. He did not permit that, even though I'm sure it was in the back of his mind that may be eventuality. But a man with understanding, that wouldn't be a major concern, because he knows that he's safe anyway. He was born in one of the Dewalokas after death, but the queen was so heartbroken that her own son, Ajatasattu, had commanded the king to be killed, that she died of grief. So with levels of akusala, we can do, chitta can perform horrible things, and we can see the dangers of that level of akusala that we all have. And when there are the conditions, yes, those sort of things can happen, most unfortunately.
But it's pointing out that mano, the mind, the citta, is the forerunner, always associated with chaitana. So like now, comes back to what is citta now. So it's not the speech or the deed, but about the citta at this very moment. Is there any understanding of the citta now?
Indeed. Thank you, Kun Sundara. I appreciate your commentary very much. It reminds me of a good friend who had confided to me that he believed he was doing the right thing, and the results thereof, the other participants, as far as journalism and an expose, and one of the other participants bitterly regretted his deed and subsequently committed suicide. So this is definitely an important topic, and just for this person, the thought can run through my mind, why I'd like to, and then just fill in the blank. And it certainly is pause for thought here. Is something definitely to consider more.
See how dangerous and damaging the regret is, the great regret that can lead to so much resource, regret about what has been done or not done when it's all gone. We don't have much time, so I'll see if Ajahn would like to add more.
While you are listening and thinking about the story, I think about the citta. Because you see that no matter it's in a Chataka or whatever, Buddha just pointed out to understand what are there at any moment. That's why we talk about the queen and everything. What about the citta at that very moment? Can it be known, no matter what it's called as the queen or the king or whatever? What about the truth? Otherwise, we just keep on remembering the name and then forget. I forget Chataka because usually I now read with understanding the cause, the effect, and what is there as not self. It's much better than just try to find out what is there from life to life of the others that is heard from moment to moment, and what is the benefit if there's no understanding of the truth of citta, Cetasika, and Dhamma. That's why it just show the different life from different conditions, from moment to moment, not from being the queen directly to the hell and so on. the result of karma, and so on.
Just came to me at those moments how dirty and polluted the chitta is.
You remember the name of the queen? Which queen? Which
All the names, all the stories will be forgotten, actually of no
Yeah.
importance whatsoever. So the understanding of the chitta now is far more precious. Otherwise, we go on and on living in the world of stories and forgetting about the understanding of at this very moment.
Yes, so this account is to teach.
Just to see the main point, not to remember the names, the details and stories.
I think also, Eve, it's to remind us of the dangers of wrong view and how our ignorance can condition more and more ignorance. And just very briefly, you mentioned suicide there earlier on. Sui, which is the old, I think it's the Old English, means self. And of course, there is no self. So it's kind of a sort of a madness that when people talk about suicide, which means relates to a type of killing self, literally. So, but that's impossible. It's a fantasy that's non-existent. So we can see how easily it is to get caught up in just nonsense. And that's the nature of samsara.
Well, I think suicide there means oneself, not the idea of self, but oneself rather than another.
what chitta?
Yeah, akusala citta. With sometimes motivated by wrong view, sometimes motivated by dosa.
Usually strong dosa at that time. Different chittas, just like now.
What is the clear example, not just the story? That is the example for dosa and lopa and so on, killing and so on, the queen and the king. And what about the nearer or the clear example of life? See? Or our example. When it's talked about.
Just a follow-up question we can do after lunch is, you know, someone may have such a kusala thoughts arising, let's say, we're so angry and will harm some other person. What are the conditions for hiri ottappa to arise?
What moment?
Yeah, what are the conditions? Let's say the person person's so angry, they wish to harm. There's the thought of harming someone in some way, killing them, whatever.
Moment of akusala
And
citta.
what, yeah, akusala, of course. And what would be the conditions for, let's say, hiri ottappa to arise at such a moment that stops them from doing it?
But what moment again?
I guess in the Javanajittas of
Because they rise with every kusala moment, hiri and ottappa.
Oh, okay.
arise.
So it has to be hiri ottappa only has to arise when there's kusala present.
Yes.
Kusala jita present.
So moments of loba, moments of dosa,
Yeah.
moments of moha, no hiri and ottappa.
Yeah.
But
So
this is a moment of kindness or generosity or understanding.
right.
Hiri and
Makes
ottappa are
sense.
there,
Okay.
conditioned already.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
another way of putting your question is, what would be the conditions for kusala citta to arise in the midst
Or
of
even just a
strong
kusala
akusala?
jita to arise. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which we know it can at any moment
That's right. Yeah.
by conditions.
by accumulations, Pakutu Upanisya Patya,
from other
because even for the one
accumulations.
who has never heard the Dhamma, kusala can arise.
But still, yeah, but some people will be the hiri ottappa will arise in such a moment where there's this intention to do harm, whereas in other people, so it's just conditions.
Depends whether kusala chitta arises, hiri and ottappa arise, seeing the danger of the harmfulness, the shamefulness of it, of
Yeah.
hurting at those moments. Okay, I think we're going to pause now for lunch. So see you at 1:30 this afternoon. Hello, Nina. We'll see you this afternoon. Hello, everyone. Azita.